And we are back. Thanks for clicking on the link. Welcome to Good Energy. Enjoy the content, and everyone have a blessed day. And we're back. Thanks for clicking on the video. Please like, subscribe, comment below. If you dislike the button, please hit the dislike button. All interactions help the algorithm. We're back at the WTA Finals, Guadalajara, Mexico, and somebody's O must go. That's right, the battle of the unbeatens today. Karolina Pliskova facing Annette Kontaveit. Annette Kontaveit never beat Pliskova on tour. Pliskova owned the head-to-head 3-love with the most wins, most recent matches coming with wins in 2019 at Toronto and Indian Wells for Pliskova over Annette Kontaveit. But would today be different? Let's take a look at these two players. Karolina Pliskova, known as having the best serve on tour, she will go down as one of the best servers ever in the history of the WTA Tour. Pliskova can get anywhere from 20 or more aces in a match. Her serve alone keeps her in many matches, which is why she's normally a favorite to win most of the matches she plays. She goes deep into sets having such strong serve, and when you look at the scoreboard, a lot of times it's 4-4, it's 5-5. She rarely gets broken with that strong of a serve, just waiting for her opponents to make mistakes and mess up, and before you know it, she will steal the set. Will today be any different? Facing someone she has beaten with regularity, 3-love, there's a feeling of confidence when you're facing someone that has never beat you before, especially with the stakes being so high here in Mexico. Would the altitude be an issue? 1,500 meters elevated. Would that be an issue for Karolina Pliskova? We did see her last match, very, very long match, grueling match with Garbiñe Muguruza. Pliskova was slumped over towards the later half of that match, the third set. We saw her gasping for air. Would that be an issue today facing Annette Kontaveit, the hottest woman on tour with a 12-match win streak, winning several championships this year, breaking her 5-championship drought of losses this year? Annette Kontaveit, a player that we know is very good at most things. I've always say I don't think she's great at any one thing. I think she's very, very good at all things. I compare her game to, if this was basketball, this is like the years where the San Antonio Spurs would win all those championships. They were good at defense. They were good at assist to turnover ratio. They were good at free throw percentage, 3-point percentage. They were good at keeping their cool, camaraderie, composure. This is Annette Kontaveit. She's very calm, she's coachable, she's relaxed, she never gets too frustrated to where she's out of a match. She keeps her composure, she has a good forehand, a really good backhand. Her forehand is essentially reminds me of a lot of the top players of all time, especially on the men's side. You know, some of the players like Djokovic, who still uses the serve and volley. Annette can serve and volley. She can play the baseline. She can play coming towards the net. She can hit angles. She can be a pattern player. So Annette Kontaveit, she's a chameleon. She can change her game depending on who she's playing, and she doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I say she's very versatile and she's very good at a lot of things. Let's get into the matchup. Annette Kontaveit, the hottest player on tour, and she would not cool off today, showing tons of emotion. Not only in the first set did she outperform Pliskova in aces, she doubled her output percentage by over 100%. That's right, but the key in the first set came down to second service points won. Annette Kontaveit had a 20% lift to Pliskova's 54.5% output. Unbelievable performance. If you take a look at the image here, this is what really did it for Annette Kontaveit. She made an adjustment right out the gate to prevent Pliskova's dominant serve. Not only did she adjust about 6 to 8 feet behind the baseline, this enabled her to handle Pliskova's serve, limiting her aces to 2 in the first set. That's right, only 2 aces out of Pliskova is not going to get it done. Not only this enabled her to return the serve of Pliskova, but she adjusted to hit that serve right into the shoulder area of Pliskova, and this really hurt her. Second service, point 1, Pliskova 54.5%. That's not going to get it done. Annette Kontaveit had a 20% lift, just outperforming her in many key areas. But the second set, still, Pliskova was able to hang around, and the key here did it. Break points converted. Pliskova 0 for 3. That's right, that's really the difference maker. Annette Kontaveit was able to hang tight, forcing several deuces, and when it came down to it, the break points converted. Annette Kontaveit 1 for 1. That's all it took to steal the first set, was one break, and 6-4 would lift her into the second set. The second set got a little bit ugly for Pliskova. If you saw the last match against Garbiñe Muguruza, in the third set, Pliskova was gasping for air. She looked really tired. That's right, 1,500 meters in elevation. A lot of adjustment for the ladies here in terms of stamina. A lot of the ladies showing signs of fatigue, especially Paula Badosa. We'll get to that match a little later. The second set, things would get really ugly. First serve points won 90% for Annette Kontaveit, 9 for 10, only 44%. Second serve points won 12% for Pliskova, 50% for Annette Kontaveit, and break point save 100% for Annette Kontaveit in the second set. And the reality here is Karolina Pliskova, when she has a first service return game of 30%, she is not going to win any match. Her serve keeps her in the game. When that is off, it's going to be a long day for her, and that's exactly what happened here. And Annette's success this year has been amazing. It's well deserved. She's calm. She keeps her composure. You never really see her frustrated and upset too much. Even on the 5 championship match losing streak, she still held her composure. She held it together. The changing coaches, who knows what it is? I think that a lot of her past results just came down to just being in a bad draw. I mean, she's had some tough draws, and this year, I think the ball is just falling her way. Everything's going her way, and you have to look out for her to win this whole thing here. She's got to be the favorite to win it. She will be facing Garbiñe Muguruza today in the primetime match. We will get into that a little bit later, but we have more tennis to talk about. Let's take a look at the next match of day number 3. That will lead us into the evening matchup in Guadalajara, Mexico, WTA Finals. Get your popcorn. This would be a packed house for this one. The Spaniards were definitely in the arena representing for Garbiñe Muguruza, looking to get revenge on the 2-1 head-to-head matchup deficit that she faced against Krejcikova. Barbara had her own cheering section that included some little kids as well, but nonetheless, would Barbara Krejcikova be affected by the doubles play, having to play 4 consecutive matches in 4 consecutive days? How would she fare? Well, the first set she came out pretty smoking. Just like I predicted, Barbara Krejcikova would win the first set with ease. And again, it looked as though she was just too much for Garbiñe Muguruza. Very powerful backhand. Barbara Krejcikova, she's a rhythm player. I mean, most tennis players are rhythm players, like I always say, but she's more of a pattern player. She likes to keep the rallies between 2 to 8 shots, and she likes to set up her pattern. And a lot of times that's going to be a cross-court backhand down the line. And the taller players like Garbiñe Muguruza, this really gives them difficulty. And Krejcikova at her best, she's going to beat Muguruza very lopsided in these sets. She's going to break her a couple times. But Garbiñe Muguruza, being a multiple-time slam champion, she can make adjustments. I felt this matchup here, the crowd was overwhelmingly behind Garbiñe Muguruza. There's no doubt about it. They wanted Muguruza to win this matchup, and she had to make adjustments coming into the second set. It looked as though, like the previous matchups these two ladies have played, Krejcikova, she's dominated the first set, and she's winning the first set so lopsided it looks as though it's a complete mismatch. But nonetheless, the second set, Garbiñe Muguruza would dig deep. But nonetheless, Barbara Krejcikova, she dominated the first set, out-acing Muguruza 3 aces to love. First serve 65.4% to Muguruza's 57%. Second serve points won, Krejcikova 55% to Garbiñe's 36%. The return game dominating, but nonetheless we would go to a second set, and here things got a little bit chaotic. I'll be honest, this was the worst calls I've seen from linesmen and women all year long, including all tournaments, all majors. The chair umpire had to get involved several times, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of these calls affected Garbiñe Muguruza. It was not her fault. She had to challenge a lot of these calls, and a lot of them were overturned. I've never seen this type of just unprofessionalism. It seems like the linesmen and women were just asleep all match long. And then on top of that, it seems like Krejcikova was never ready, trying to hold up Muguruza, doing little dirty tactics here and there. Muguruza was clearly frustrated. I mean, and it got to where Muguruza was so frustrated, I think it affected Barbara Krejcikova's game. Krejcikova was on the receiving end of a lot of these calls to her advantage, not as though, you know, she was the one calling these shots, but they were affecting Muguruza, and I felt Muguruza's frustration started to then affect Krejcikova's game. You notice Krejcikova's level of play dropped, but nonetheless, Muguruza, the second set, she would prevail, coming up with 5 aces. That's right, she stepped her ace game up. She dominated the first serve, 71%. First service points won, 76%, and break points saved, 5 out of 6, 83%. These two ladies, they've played 3 times previously, with Krejcikova winning at the US Open. She also won at Toronto. And the reality is, it seemed as though Krejcikova, anytime she wanted, she could break Muguruza. Muguruza saving 5 out of 6 break points was unbelievable, and that's really what's going to dictate the play here. Krejcikova, she's a pattern player, like I always say. She wants to hold the rallies between 2 to 8 shots. She wants to take her backhand down the line and hit winners. And if she's not able to do that, if Muguruza can hold the baseline, which he's great for doing, 2-time slam winner, when you see Muguruza coming towards the net and she has that spring in her step, the chances are she's winning. That's exactly what she did the second set. And the third set, I hope you got your popcorn. The third set came down to essentially break point save. Krejcikova managed to save 5 out of 6 break points, but nonetheless, that lets you know who had the pressure on them all third set. Muguruza never faced a break point in the third set. It was all pressure she was applying to Krejcikova, and Krejcikova eventually broke. Krejcikova, I felt, also ran out of gas. She's playing a lot of tennis, and she just didn't have much left in the tank. And with the help of the crowd, Garbiñe Muguruza was just able to keep her composure with all of the bad calls that went for Krejcikova. I felt Garbiñe could have easily got frustrated, lost her cool, and lost this match very early. But nonetheless, the crowd did keep her in it. Her expertise, her experience, multiple slam winner. Krejcikova won the French Open this year, but you have to be honest, the draw was very favorable for her, and she peaked at the right time. In this tournament here, the winner, it's going to come down to who's peaking at the right time. We clearly see some players emerging with great form, Annette Kontaveit, and another player from Spain, Paula Badosa. Let's get right into that match right now. Paula Badosa versus Sakkari. Somebody's O had to go. Now, this matchup here, I felt a lot of the result from this matchup purely was going to come from Marie Sakkari's racket. I mean, Marie Sakkari, we know that when she is hitting 45% or lower with her second serve return points, she's not going to win the match. We know that she historically has made a ton of errors, a ton of double faults, but her power keeps her in games. We know that Marie Sakkari is not one to want to play extended rallies. We know that Marie Sakkari, on the other hand, is very powerful. She's very athletic, and a lot of her strength just overpowers players and completely hits them off of the court. So a lot of this matchup, from my expertise, really came down to how well Marie Sakkari could limit mistakes and keep her composure. The Marie Sakkari of the old, very frustrated when things aren't going her way, slamming down her racket, much like a Sabalenka. That forces her opponents to gain confidence and find the ability to just hit through her power and break her. And her opponent, Paula Badosa, on the other hand, a strong supporting cast here. She brought the most friends and family members to the tournament out of all players, which I think is doing a good job of keeping her well-grounded and confident and composed when things aren't going her way. Having a cheering section is great. Marie Sakkari travels with a large cheering section, but Paula Badosa outdid it this time. And I think it's great. Paula Badosa, along with Annette Kontaveit, the two hottest players in this tournament, with win streaks dating back to the Indian Wells. And the reality here is Paula Badosa doesn't get a lot of credit for just her all-around play. Much like Annette Kontaveit, I think Paula Badosa is a very solid all-around player. Good backhand, good forehand, good movement, very athletic. Doesn't make a ton of mistakes. The only time you can really frustrate Paula Badosa, I feel, is when you're very much stronger than her and where you can overpower her off the court. But if we take a look at some of the technical aspects of her game that doesn't get all that credit, I want to take a look at her serve. And I always say, no matter what professional sport you compete in, it shows who is putting in the work in the gym. It shows who's dedicated to the craft. And this is displayed when you're winning or losing with your composure on how you can battle back or stay calm. Let's take a look at Paula Badosa's serve. Feet behind the baseline, less than shoulders width apart so you can gather strength from your core. Left hand motion straight in the air, preparing for a right hand follow through, feet still behind the baseline. Follow through motion extends her, propels her 3 feet forward with the great serve motion right into the body of your opponent. A lot of this is started from the left foot kick up position, and that sets up the entire process. Great servers like Serena Williams, Karolina Pliskova, they have a great rhythm motion like this. 10 aces for Paula Badosa in this match, $1,500 raised for cancer awareness. Great match for Paula Badosa. But nonetheless, this would not be an easy match for Paula Badosa. She did break Sakkari early with a chance to close it out at 5-2. Sakkari was able to force back and force a tiebreak in the first set. And a lot of this was due to Sakkari and her in-game adjustments, which I commend her for. We saw Marie Sakkari get very frustrated early in this match, and it looked like she would be blown off the court after being broken early. But nonetheless, we did see the composure and we saw the adjustments made by Marie Sakkari, which I commend her for. We saw a few shots in her toolbox that she hasn't brought out in quite a while. We saw the slice. The first adjustment she made was the slice, just helping redirect the ball and redirect Paula Badosa's forehand. The slice was the key shot that got her back into this match in the first set. And not only was the slice something she pulled out of the arsenal, but the drop shot. We saw the drop shot incorporated to disrupt Paula Badosa's timing and to get Paula Badosa off the baseline. I always say Paula Badosa is a very good baseline player that's athletic and can move forward. But the drop shot was not a shot Paula Badosa was expecting Sakkari to go to. She really leaned on the drop shot the first set, and it got her back into that. Considering Marie Sakkari had 0 aces in the first set, if you tell me Marie Sakkari is going to have 0 aces in any set, Will she win that set? The answer is going to be no every time. But the drop shot enabled her to get back into the first set and ultimately force a tiebreak. But nonetheless, it was really too much and possibly too little too late. I felt if she could have incorporated the slice and the drop shot early before being broken, it's a possible chance she could have broke Paula in the first set and won that. But nonetheless, the mistakes started to pile up, and Paula Badosa dominated the first set in terms of statistics, but as I say, it is a bit misleading because Marie Sakkari did a good job of playing herself back into the set, but nonetheless, she would end up losing the tiebreak 7-4, and ultimately that set up the match here. In the second set, again, Marie Sakkari, she held her own for the most part, but Paula Badosa, again, too strong with the aces. 6 aces in the second set. Marie Sakkari just trying to get any type of energy she could from the crowd. The crowd was predominantly cheering for Paula Badosa, but we know Sakkari travels with her cheering section. They did everything she can to pump her up. And Marie Sakkari, I mean, she's a Leo. She has that Leo energy, and the reality is with Marie Sakkari, she can pump herself up. She can fire herself up anytime she needs to, and she just has that in her game that can lift her when she's not playing well. But you know, those fire signs can also burn in the wrong direction, and sometimes I feel her energy gets the best of her where she gets frustrated and down. And we know Marie Sakkari of old can make a lot of mistakes. She can make a lot of unforced errors. She's fixed her unforced errors a lot for the most part this year, but in the second set, we saw them start to pile up. And the reality is, in these games that she loses, she will be consistent for the first half or the first set, and then you'll see her just break down in the second set. And a lot of the more powerful players, they do this a lot on tour. When the ball is not striking their way with force, you know, they start to get frustrated and they can't really make those adjustments. Although the slice and the drop shot, she did make the great adjustments to, Paula Badosa got readjusted to that change in Sakkari's game, and again, it just stopped working. The drop shots, Paula Badosa started coming forward and, you know, defending those well, and Sakkari just had nothing to turn to because her service game was horrible today. But nonetheless, Paula Badosa advances and just dominated in aces. A match where Sakkari has 1 ace, she's not going to win that match. But nonetheless, the unforced errors piled up, 49 for Sakkari. She's got to fix those errors. That's too many errors in a match where you're playing against the best woman in the world. If she's going to advance, she has to cut that in half. She's not going to get out of any of these matches in these rounds with 49 unforced errors. That can't happen. The first match with Iga, we saw her do a good job with errors, and I mean, that's how she's gonna have to play. She's gonna play against Sabalenka next, and someone's gonna be sent home after that match. The way Sabalenka played against Iga, I don't know, we may have already saw a winner of that matchup, but the game needs to be played, and let's get right into that matchup. Iga Swiatek versus Aryna Sabalenka. The facial expression on Sabalenka tells it all. She just wants to play tennis. Let's skip the ceremonial stuff. I want to get my serve on. But nonetheless, Iga Swiatek, 2 titles this year, ranked 6th in the world, a ton of earnings on tour, having won the major at the French Open last year in the shortened year, but 35-14 on the year, really good year, pretty decent on hard court, although I would definitely say she's a much better clay court player. But Iga is, she's a rhythm player, she's a pattern player. She, just like Krejcikova, I feel they're serve type volley players where they have to play with a rhythm and a pattern, and if you disrupt that, they can completely collapse. But nonetheless, Iga's the type of player where she's not going to overpower you with strength like a Sakkari or a Sabalenka. She's a type, she's going to set you up. You know, she's a Joanna Konta type of player. Elise Mertens type of player, where they're pattern players. They're going to set you up, probably down the middle, and then just hit a corner baseline shot or something that you really can't defend. And I like tennis players like Iga and Krejcikova and Konta and Mertens. You know, I like those type of players because when they have favorable matchups, it's very easy to predict their play. And nonetheless, it's good tennis. You know, I don't really like watching players that make a ton of mistakes and, you know, want short rallies and go for everything in one shot. I like players that will set you up. I like the chess type of tennis players, and Iga is definitely that type of player. But nonetheless, on the other side of the net, Sabalenka overall having a really good year. 2 titles on the year, making numerous finals. We saw her finally get over the Ashley Barty hump after Ashley Barty just dominated her earlier in the year. But nonetheless, 271 wins on her career. I mean, a relatively young career for the most part. Right-handed, number 2 in the world. Very strong player, plays with a lot of emotion, passion, plays with a lot of raw power that a lot of times just she can hit through most defense. In terms of her own defensive style, she really doesn't have one. Her offense is her defense, and she's been that way for, you know, her entire career thus far. In terms of the surface, she's a good hard court player. With her power transfers, whether it's hard court clay. She's 24-11 on this surface, and she would need a big showing to not go down 0-2 today. I feel that the loser of this match is just going to be out the tournament for the most part. And I felt Iga is the weaker player out of all these players in this tournament based on her style of play. But nonetheless, Iga would take the first set as we get right into it. The first set, Iga looked really good. And a few things that Iga did in the first set very well. First serve, 63% to Sabalenka's 41%. First service points won, 85%. When she's winning 85% of the first serve points, she's doing well. Iga has to serve well, getting the ball in play to set up her shots. If her first serve is not on point, and especially the second serve, Iga's not going to win a match with low service numbers. Iga holds 75% of the time. So as long as her first serve is in play to where she can set up her patterns, whether that's down the baseline with the forehand or that's a cross-court backhand, then Iga's going to do very well. The return game, 20%. The return game was sloppy for both players in the first set, 14% for Sabalenka, 20% for Iga. But the break points converted was a difference, 2 for 2 for Iga. Swiatek and Sabalenka had 0 chances to break in the first set. The first set was ugly for Sabalenka. It looked like whatever she was dealing with in the first match against Paula Badosa, she let carry on into this first set here with Iga. And it looked like she was going to be blown off of the court pretty quickly. But nonetheless, Sabalenka took a break. She changed shirts, and she came out the second set looking like the champion we know her to be. Only 3 aces, and I think that's probably a good thing for her. Sabalenka's second on the tour in aces, but she's number 1 in double faults. And I always say a lot of these top service game women that can produce a ton of aces, they also make a ton of double faults. But nonetheless, her joker face was on. She started smiling. The crowd started to back her. And I think the crowd really wanted to see 3 sets of long, good tennis. But it felt as though Sabalenka's antics and notions to the crowd to pump her up, like she did at the US Open. I felt if she didn't pump up the crowd in New York, Leylah Fernandez would have beat her in straight sets. Kind of like here. She pumped up the crowd, and the crowd started to overwhelmingly cheer for Sabalenka. But only 3 aces in the second set, and I feel that's a good thing. If she can win sets and matches without producing a ton of aces, then that's kind of letting you know, okay, she has to play tennis. She's having to earn these points, and I feel that's better for her defense. Because Sabalenka, much like a Camila Giorgi, they don't want long rallies. They want to set up their shots with power down the baseline, cross court, and they want to hit winners. Much different from the pattern player like Iga is. Sabalenka, very little defense. It's her offense is her defense for the most part. But nonetheless, first service points won 89%. 16 out of 18 to Iga's 64%, and that will get it done there. She saved 3 for 3 break points. That was the difference in the first set. She didn't save any of her break points. Iga could only save 50% of her break points in the second set, 2 for 4. And with being in the finals with such a huge prize on the line, your chance to go down in history as one of the best of the year, you have to be able to save break points. And being that, this is in Mexico, for the most part, the crowd's neutral. I think they just want to see good tennis. You have to be able to save break points on the road. Sabalenka did a really good job of that in the second set, and that forced the third set. Still early on in the third set, it appeared as though Iga was in control. And much of that was due to Sabalenka and her double faults. She had 9 double faults in the third set. That is a ton, and I'm still not sure how she won this match, but she was able to save 1 of 2 break points. Iga 1 of 3 with break points in the third set, and that really was a difference maker when Sabalenka was able to force deuce. Iga just made critical mistakes down the stretch, and in this match, the third set was it went 7-5, but the reality is, this could have easily went to a tie break. This was a very close third set. Sabalenka made a ton of mistakes to keep Iga in the third set, and then Iga would come back and make critical advantage mistakes, letting Sabalenka back into the set and winning the game. But nonetheless, Sabalenka would go on. She is victorious, and she's going to face Marie Sakkari in the next round. This is a very important matchup. It's going to determine essentially who's going to be positioned for the semifinals. Me personally, I think this is a matchup. Let's get right into it. Let's look at the head-to-head between Sakkari and Sabalenka. Sabalenka owns a head-to-head 4-1. They've played a total of 5 times, and this is a matchup where I think Sakkari is going to struggle. Not only is she going to be playing someone that can out-hit her, that's stronger than her, I think she's playing someone that has more confidence right now. It was a shame to see Sabalenka kept out of the Indian Wells. I felt that if she participated in the Indian Wells, I don't think Paula Badosa would have won that, not by a long stretch. I think that would have been Sabalenka's match to win. Coming off of the US Open, she was in really good form, really good rhythm, and she wasn't making all these mistakes. Some players are rhythm players. Some players need their timing down. Sabalenka's one of those players because she's not a long, extended rally type of player. She has to hit winners with her power. So a lot of that is based on rhythm and timing. She's hitting, some very fast balls at you. She's got to have her timing down. And I felt the layoff hurt her game the most. And it's going to take a couple matches for her to get back in that shape. And I think that's really what happened. Beating someone like Iga, who's more technical and fundamentally sound than Sakkari, I think that's a very strong win, coupling the fact that she's 4-1 head-to-head against Sakkari. So Sakkari's not going to win that matchup. We're going to take Sabalenka to defeat Sakkari. And let's take a look at the other matchup that's going to put Paula Badosa versus Iga. And this is going to be a good matchup. Get your popcorn. These ladies have only played once, and that was in Tokyo. And that's a matchup that Iga was winning before Paula Badosa was able to keep her composure, play through Iga's rhythm in pattern tennis, and eventually break her and steal the match. That's a match that Iga had won. That's another match that, and maybe the weather had something to do with it, but Iga was dominating that match until Paula Badosa figured it out. Here, I think Iga probably has the better chance of beating Paula here than any of the ladies in this draw. And the reason I say that is because Iga she's a pattern player. And I feel with Paula Badosa's confidence in her rhythm right now, that's the only way you're going to be able to set something up to beat her. We've seen her overpower two of the strongest players here. So power's not getting it done. It's going to have to be a chess match if you're going to beat Paula Badosa here. Will Iga finally get a win here? Well, I mean, I felt she had the match against Sabalenka. She blew that. The Marie Sakkari match was pretty close than what the score suggested as well. But this is a matchup here where I think her confidence is down. I've been saying this for years, especially all of this year. Iga's a type of player that she travels with her mental coach. If she gets down on her game, she won't really show a lot of frustration in terms of physical anger, like slamming the racket down, which she can, and she has done that recently in the past. But you can see it on her face, much like a Naomi Osaka, where it starts to make a lot of frowns, and you can see the confidence taken out of her face. I think Paula Badosa, you have to like to win this match. She's on a long win streak. She hasn't lost. There's no reason to pick her to lose this match here. She owns the head-to-head. She has a confidence, what she did in Tokyo. I feel she can do it here under better conditions, more comfortable conditions. So I do like Paula Badosa to win and punch her spot into the semifinals with 3 wins and 0 losses. That will definitely do it. And that concludes the Chichen Itza draw. But let's take a look at the Teotihuacan's draw, and we have Garbiñe Muguruza versus Anett Kontaveit. Probably two of the toughest women in this tournament. You gotta love Garbiñe Muguruza's grit and her willingness to not give up and just fight to the last point. Garbiñe is the type of player, like I always say, she can get down a set and she's not out because she continues to fight. Anett Kontaveit, she hasn't dropped a set in ages. Anett Kontaveit this year, over 40 wins when she wins the first set. Unbelievable statistics there. Anett Kontaveit, if she gets off to the first win in the first set, there's a chance that she's going to take that set. Between these two ladies, this is a very tough matchup to predict. The head-to-head, essentially they haven't really played. Anett winning the most recent match in Moscow, but other than that, a lot of the matches were played several years ago. But much like Paula Badosa, Anett Kontaveit, she's hot. There's no reason to pick her to lose here. However, if there's someone in this draw that will beat her, it will be Garbiñe Muguruza, because Garbiñe, both of these ladies are tall. Both of these ladies are versatile. I feel Anett Kontaveit does a little bit of each thing better. In terms of serving, Garbiñe hasn't really been serving that well in this tournament. Anett Kontaveit is serving much better. I like Kontaveit's backhand better. I like her forehand. I'd probably, to be honest with you, right now, Sabalenka and Sakkari's forehand aren't really looking too good. I'd probably say Anett Kontaveit has the best forehand in the tournament right now. But much like the analogy I gave earlier, I like Anett Kontaveit. She reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs. She does everything really good and she doesn't make a lot of mistakes. That's going to keep you in a lot of games. It's going to break your opponents early. It's going to win a lot of matches. I'm going to pick Anett Kontaveit to win this match in straight sets. Anett Kontaveit hasn't been a 3-set type of player. When she gets the first set, her confidence is there. She's not going to make a lot of mistakes, and she's going to end up stealing the second set. So I do like Anett Kontaveit to win this in straight sets. But nonetheless, if there's a player that's going to beat her, it will be Garbiñe. But I do not think that happens. That will push Anett to 3 wins, 0 losses, and she will have her spot in the semifinals, and Garbiñe will have to battle it out here. And our last match that I'm going to be talking about today, which will actually be our first match today. This starts shortly here. Karolina Pliskova owns a head-to-head against Barbara Krejcikova, 2 wins to love. And this is a match here. I feel that Krejcikova, I just think she's gassed. I think she's checked out. playing a comparable player in Garbiñe Muguruza, where we saw her just run out of gas. She is undefeated. Her and Tinankova just beat Mertens and Heish in the doubles tournament. So she's doing well in termos. She's doing well in doubles, but unlike the French Open, where she was able to capture the singles and doubles title, that's just not going to happen here. I think a lot of her focus has shifted to winning the doubles. There's still $1 million in prize money up for grabs there. I think Pliskova is going to serve this out. I see Pliskova winning this in straight sets. I think Pliskova is going to be too much for Krejcikova here. Now, is this a match Barbara can win? I feel if Barbara is mentally there, her pattern will absolutely disrupt Pliskova. But I think she's checked out from what I've seen. She's had 2 matches where she could have easily won that she ended up losing. And I think Pliskova's just toughness all around, versatility. I think Pliskova's going to control the baseline, disrupt Barbara's patterns, and I think Pliskova's going to win this matchup here. And then we're going to get some more preview and predictions after tonight's matches, and we're going to see where we're headed for with Monday's games. But nonetheless, this has been good energy. Like and subscribe, comment below. Let me know who do you think's going to win it. This concludes my video for the WTA Finals in Guadalajara, Mexico, where only one player can win. Thank you guys.